This week, Israel returns to the polls for the third time in 11 months, and most experts are forecasting yet another hung parliament.
The Jewish state is grappling with the fallout from US President Donald Trump's long-awaited peace plan and uncertainty over the fate of Benjamin Prime Minister Netanyahu, who's facing bribery and fraud charges. Ehud Yaari is an award-winning Israeli journalist, author and commentator who's been covering the visit here of Israel's president. He joins us now. So good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me.
For people who haven't been closely following the Israeli election, I mean, this is an extraordinary story, the third election in 11 months, and we have the prospect of a man who's currently indicted again becoming the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yes, the Prime Minister is going to stand trial on March 17th. That's about 2 weeks after the elections on March 2nd. We never had any situation like this before. Certainly not 3 rounds of people going to the ballot within less than a year. However, in the last week, we see a trend growing in Israel in which Mr. Netanyahu, in spite of the fact that he is going to be charged with bribery and breach of trust, is picking momentum. So just to make it clear, he needs 61 seats out of the 120 seats in our parliament in the Knesset in order to stay as Prime Minister and form his own coalition. He is now standing at 58 with an option of getting one extreme right-wing list to drop from the race, and they have an extra 2% to give him.
It's amazing because, as we all know, Benjamin Netanyahu, a figure on the political landscape in Israel for decades, is a very polarising figure, isn't he, Ehud? So
Yes, he is.
What explains this burst of popularity, as you say, towards the election?
Well, the main issue in the elections, all 3 rounds, and certainly now, is the question whether you want to have a Prime Minister who's standing trial. The Israeli law is very special. The Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister only, can keep serving in office, and that's a law legislated long before Netanyahu became Prime Minister. He can stay in office as long as he is not convicted at the last instance of appeal at the Supreme Court. That's the Israeli law for years, in order to prevent an Attorney General from pushing out a Prime Minister. So the elections are about Bibi, whether you want him to stay while he's standing trial and with these charges against him, or you think that you would like to change government. You said polarizing, and that's very right, Michael, because in his campaign, out of his desperation, and some would say panic, he has been attacking the judicial system, the police, the media. He is using every trick in the book, and quite a few tricks that are not in the book of Israeli politics.
That certainly sounds like someone else that we know, another world leader that we know in terms of tactics. And of course, President Trump has recently announced his so-called deal of the century, the Israeli-Palestinian peace plan. How is that playing into the elections, and how is that going down in Israel?
You see, Madeleine, there is no real debate between the 2 blocks, the center-left and center-right, over security or political issues. So even the guy who is trying to topple Netanyahu, ex-Chief of Staff General Gantz, supports the Trump plan. He just objects to Netanyahu's wish to start annexing those parts of the West Bank allocated to Israel in the plan right now. The Trump plan, I think there is a great misunderstanding also in the Middle East. The Trump plan was not presented to the Palestinians because it was known the Palestinians have declared already 2 years ago that they were not going even to take a look at the plan. The plan was intended to serve as a platform to get the Arab states, the Gulf states, Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, etc., negotiating publicly with Israel over the resolution of the conflict with the Palestinians, even if the Palestinians are absent and refuse to take part. So there is no real debate in Israel about the plan, except the question whether you should move ahead and implement parts of it or wait for these negotiations with the Arabs.
Just one really final and brief question. Since he's been here, the Israeli president has said that he's going to take up the case of the Malka Leifer extradition, should that continue to be stalled in the courts. Just in Israel, does that case does it get much attention?
Oh, yes. It gets attention because, for one example, is that the deputy acting minister of health, who belongs to that ultra-Orthodox faction which sort of tries to prevent the extradition of Mrs. Leifer back to Australia, is charged by the police for trying to influence the panel of psychiatrists that were giving their opinion. The president can do nothing about the case. It's, as you said, stalled in the courts, but there is building pressure on the prosecution to be more aggressive in blocking the delaying tactics used by the lawyers of Mrs. Leifer.
Okay.
I don't think there is any doubt that she already been found fit to stand trial, and thereby extradited to Australia. This will be resolved.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll leave it there. But thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you, my
Great
pleasure.
to speak to you. Thanks, Ehud. The federal government